So hi, everybody. Welcome in. I'm Kelly Kaczynski. I'm the Sales and Marketing Operations Manager here at SK Soft. Thank you all for joining us today. We also have Jennifer Courtney on the line. Jennifer, could you do a quick introduction?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everyone. I am Jennifer Courtney, the Customer Success Manager with SK Soft.
Thanks, Jennifer. Chuck Schrader is on with us as well. He'll be driving the AP payment processing and bank reconciliation demo for you today. Chuck, could you do a quick introduction?
Hi there. Yeah, I am Chuck Schrader, and I am a senior solution architect here at SK Soft.
Thanks, Chuck. Today, we're thrilled to show you the key solutions within our Treasury Automation Suite. But here's the kicker. Our solutions aren't about duplicating what's already available to you in your ERP system. We're all about elevating and expanding its capabilities. Picture fully centralized financial processes with automation that is built into your ERP system and has the same look and feel as D365. First, Chuck will be guiding you through our banking connectivity solution, Bank Fabric, that collaborates with all the modules that have a file going to and from the bank within our Treasury Automation Suite to encrypt and transfer your banking files to the bank. And I'll turn it over to Chuck to walk through how that works.
Thanks, Kelly. So yeah, Bank Fabric is a piece that a part of the Treasury Automation solution. Anything that you normally interact with on a day-to-day basis is inside of D365. It's embedded, but Bank Fabric is a hosted service that sits outside of D365. Its main job in life is really to get things to and from your bank and to and from your secure storage. So almost everything we do involves some kind of file going to or from a bank. So we want to make sure that we do that as automated and as secure as possible. And again, Bank Fabric is what does that shuttling back and forth effortlessly between D365 in your bank and D365 in your Azure storage. It's hosted by SK Soft, so there's nothing to install or maintain. And it's in Azure, so it's integrated to your Azure storage. We're never storing your documents. Those are always in your Azure storage subscription. And Bank Fabric, again, is really just the shuttle mechanism going back and forth between the two, between D365 in your storage and D365 in the bank.
Chuck? Let's dive into the story of Pattern Energy, an existing customer of ours who implemented our solutions in 2017. Just imagine they're balancing global operations across many different companies while using inefficient and complex financial processes. Their financial operations created a need for many different file formats across several banks and countries. Managing invoices, payments, statements, and other financial activities was eating up their employees' time and made room for errors. To add to the complexity, there wasn't a one-stop shop platform to centralize their processes, resulting in a noticeable lack of visibility and support. Challenging times, right? But fear not, because after implementing our Treasury Automation Suite, Pattern Energy was able to resolve these challenges. At the end of the presentation, we'll be covering off on the key results Pattern Energy achieved through implementing our solutions. Today, we're going to be showing you how the Treasury Automation Suite can allow you to achieve robust and secure automation within your ERP system, just like Pattern Energy. On the agenda today, we're going to be showing you our seamless and secure vendor payment automation solution, how you can shield against check fraud with Positive Pay, and how you can unleash efficiency through automated bank reconciliation. Picture this. Nearly half of all businesses grapple with the challenge of paying 10% of their invoices late. For some, it gets even more alarming, with almost 20% admitting that 1 out of 5 invoices isn't paid on time. Only a mere 5% claim to consistently pay on time every time. Ultimately, AP spends about 30% of their time chasing data and fielding inquiries related to invoices and payments. Today, we're going to show you how you can beat the statistics using our seamless and secure vendor payment automation solution. Chuck will kick this off by first discussing formats. He'll show you how to create a payment proposal, how to transfer the file using send later, how you can create the file, and he'll discuss transmissions to the bank, how you can complete the file, and lastly, process a return payment. I'll stop sharing and pass it over to Chuck to talk to you about bank formats.
Thanks, Kelly. Let me go ahead and share here. So mine's ordered. Oops, back up. So yeah, as Kelly mentioned, it's most of our process start and end with something going to and from the bank. So we need to know what that particular file looks like. In the case of our electronic payments, we have a vast library of existing formats for banks around the world, and we develop and maintain these at no cost. If for some reason you would have a bank that we have not dealt with before or a payment type that we have not dealt with before, we simply just get the specification and we put it in our library. That usually takes a week or so to get one in there. We have 700 plus existing formats, thousands of payment types, as I mentioned already in there. We talk about outbound formats, that's sending something to the bank. So if we're sending out a SEPA payment or a wire payment or ACH, or even things like outsourced checks, all of those payments initiate with something being sent to the bank for the bank to issue the payment. So those are the outbound. The inbound is reading information responses back from the bank. Many times when you get a connection set up with the bank, they'll ask you, do you want a manual response, in other words, an email, or do you want an automated response, which is a machine readable response? We highly recommend getting that inbound responses machine readable. We can automatically download those, automatically bring those back into the system to completely kind of round trip the whole process, automate the whole round trip. The field validation rules, those are built into all those formats. So when we build a format out, and we'll see an example of that when we run the actual demo here in 1 minute. But that is basically us checking ahead of time for things that we know the bank is going to reject if we go ahead and send it. So if we know the bank is going to require a vendor bank country for a foreign wire, we're going to enforce that right in the payment journal right away. We don't want you to do the payment journal, go through a bunch of processes, maybe some approvals, get to the bank, only to have them reject it. Just real quick, we'll go over kind of a high level flow, and then we'll actually walk through it in software. So today we're going to start with a payment proposal, which is standard D365, transferring that payment proposal to the journal. Again, all of that up to that point is really standard D365 payment process. Then the validation kicks in, the rules I just mentioned. So if there's going to be, if there's issues we know the bank will reject, we're going to flag those for you. There is a send later and send now. Today we're going to go through the send later. Basically means, are we queuing it up for someone else to release to the bank, or am I sending it all the way straight through? So the payments are sent to the bank either in one step or two there. And then it's really, are we getting an inbound file back? Today we're going to go through this bottom route here because I don't have a real bank sending me real responses to my test data. So we're going to go ahead and complete the process, and the completion process automatically posts the journal, sends out all the email. So again, I went through that pretty fast, but we're just going to go ahead and walk through it in software now. If I try to bring up the software, let's try that. So today I'm going to walk through an ACH payment for an EF electronic funds transfer example. But as I mentioned, electronic funds transfer to us is anything that starts with sending a file to the bank. I think we got some feedback coming back from somewhere. So sending a file to the bank. So again, people normally think of that as ACH payments, SEPA payments, wire payments. But as I mentioned, that can be things like outsourced checks. That still is initiated by sending data to the bank for the bank to print those checks on your behalf. The other one we see is the single-use cards. Those are becoming a bit more popular now, where you send your vendor basically a card number to exercise to receive their payment. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the payment proposal process. Again, this part is standard D365. I'm normally, if this is a regular payment run, I'm going to go pick payments that are due through a certain date. Let's pick today. And I'm going to pick just the ACH payments for this run. And since it is an ACH run, I'm going to go ahead and date those all tomorrow. So that'll line up more with when the payments come out of the bank, since ACH is an overnight network. So D365 is just building a list of invoices that fit that description, fit those filters. And I can see here there's about a dozen invoices over 3 different vendors here. When I click create payments, this is one of the first places that we are jumping in and adding value to this process by doing that validation I mentioned earlier. If we detect any errors, you're going to see a little red ribbon across the top that says there's exceptions. And we see that it basically just points you to this exception list where it gives you more detail about the problems. So in this case, there's just one issue with the Bentley's vendor. And if we go through here, we can see that it is a bad length on a routing number. And if you look starting about here to the highlighted part, it's really just a breadcrumb trail all the way from the menu, the TAS menu and sub menu, all the way down to the form tab and field. So we're going to try to point you exactly where you need to go take a look at this if we do present an error to you. But in ACH, not much can go wrong, but that is one of the things that can go wrong, right? Is the ACH requires a 9-digit routing number. So it has to be present, it has to be 9 digits. And again, we're going to check for that. On a little more complex one, the example I gave earlier, a foreign wire, most of those require a vendor bank country. So if that's not present, again, we're going to flag that. The idea, of course, again, not sending things to the bank that we know they're going to reject. So in this case, the Bentley's one was the issue. In a real life situation, chances are we're not going to be able to call that vendor up and sort that out in enough time to get today's payment run out on time. So we'll probably just take it out of the payment run like we are here, and then go ahead and proceed forward. So at this point, the payment journal is kind of ready to go. So we're ready to send something to the bank. And the 2 options I mentioned earlier are the send later and send now. Are we going to queue it up for someone else to send it? So maybe I'm an organization where, as an AP person, my role ends at making sure the right invoices and right payments are in today's payment run. And it's someone else's job to release this information, release this file to the bank. Or I could be a send now type of thing where, nope, I own all those responsibilities. I wear all those hats. So I'm going to express send it all the way through. And you can control through configuration, security, what options are available. I'm going to do the 2-step method today just so you can see the couple steps, but just keep in mind you can express it through as well. By the way, if you have workflow on, the workflow is going to automatically push it along that step. So you can set the workflow to do the send later or set the workflow to do the send now. And then effectively those 2 buttons I just saw there, or you just saw there, get grayed out. At this point, it's pushed over to the next step, waiting for someone to release it to the bank. If I'm strictly on the AP side, I can still see where it's at in the process via this AP EFT snapshot. So it's not too much information here yet because it just kind of started. So I can see it's going to be in this file number, but it's not there yet because the file's not processed. Once things get sent to the bank, you'll see these fill in where it's completed and transmitted. And if you get those electronic responses back that I mentioned earlier, then you can go ahead and start to see things in here as well, whether this got accepted or rejected, for instance. I am going to go to the next step, which is create and send. Normally, I'd probably, if there was a separation in duties, I would go out to the menu and reselect it, but I'm just going to navigate there via this hot link. And you can see now we're on this create and send step. Again, if there was a separation of duties, this is where maybe a treasurer or finance person or AP manager is coming in and they're going to release this file to the bank. From here, we can see it's a single journal that has 40-some thousand dollars worth of payments in it. If I go to look at the drill in, I can drill in and see it's a journal with 2 payments in it. And I can drill in really as much as I want and see the payments, drill back to the journal, whatever I have permission to do here. But normally I'm just going to come in here and go ahead and select this guy. The default action is going to be create and send, which is what we want to do. We want to create this and send it to the bank. So I'm simply going to select it and click begin processing. So this is where it's going out to Bank Fabric. Bank Fabric is, we've identified which format we need. In my case, it's a Bank of America format. Let's go ahead and send it to the bank. And now you can see it went to a transmitted status. At this point, we're waiting on that response back. And earlier I mentioned we could get an email response or we could get an automated response. For demo purposes, I don't have a real bank sending me an automated response. So I'm going to go ahead and just do the manual step here of completing this. If there was an automated response back, the step I'm doing manually would be automatically done. So we download the response file from the bank, and then act on that file. 99% of the time, that's going to be the bank accepted everything. So we're going to go ahead and click this and run the completion process. The completion process is doing a couple things that I normally don't want to do until I get that response back. So there we go. So yes, it's kicking off the email. So you can see the email pending there. The other thing it did is went ahead and posted the journal. So normally I don't want to post the journal. I don't want to send out emails to all my vendors, then later find out the file was rejected or for whatever reason. So we count on that bank response to kick off those processes. If I sat here and refresh this enough times, it'll eventually go to a completed status versus email pending whenever those get sent out. We don't hold up the form to send out emails because there could be a payment run with hundreds of emails to send out. So again, you'll just see it automatically refresh here once it gets once the batch job gets caught up. From here, I can see the details. So if I go in, I can see the status of these, if they're approved or not. I can see if an email went out, if it failed or not. Again, the emails will eventually go out here, but the batch job has to cycle and send those out. And you can set, because this is an embedded product, you could set alerts on the screen to let you know if there was an email failure or if a status changed. Again, any D365 form, you can do that. And because we're an embedded product, we can take advantage of those, what they call alerts. So I could set up alert on this form for a particular action if we wanted to detect like failed emails. This is mostly inquiry, but a couple things we can do here. We can resend vendor emails. So if the email does fail, we can go ahead and maybe fix the vendor's email up and then resend it from here. Or if we wanted to remit out, get a physical copy, we could do that as well. The other pretty handy thing is this reverse posted payment. If I go to if I sent this to the bank, Treasury Automation didn't see any problems with it. Maybe even right away, your bank accepted it. So we went ahead and posted it like we just did. Then about maybe 2 days later, I get this notification in the mail, or I see something on my bank statement that says an electronic payment was reversed. Normally that means the receiving bank rejected it for whatever reason. Maybe your vendor changed banks and didn't tell you, and they closed their account at the account that you had. At this point, I need to back it back out of D365. So to do so in standard D365 is about a half dozen steps. I need to drill into the vendor, then go into transactions, then drill into settlements, undo the payment from the invoices that settle. So basically open the invoices back up. And then I needed to go where we started today in a payment journal, and I'd manually create a reversing journal. This reverse posted payment does all those steps. So I click reverse posted payment, I can change the date or not. And when I click reverse, it's going to open all those invoices up that were paid by this payment. It's going to create a reversing payment and then optionally post that payment to null out the original payment. So again, a reverse posted payment can go pretty quick to the reverse things out if you need to do that. Any questions on what you just saw there? Again, we created the proposal. We went through the send later step here, and then we went ahead and picked it up and we did the completion process, the send process manually, the completion process manually. If you go through this top path, several of my clients have this fully automated where basically after the payment journal step, everything happens automatically. It's going out with the send now, the responses are coming back in and automatically completing the process, emailing, sending the emails out and then posting the journal. So if you kind of go down the top path here, you can really have this automated all the way from once you're done getting the proposal done. Everything after that can be fully automated. Any questions before we turn it back to Kelly?
Hey Chuck, there's a question in chat.
Okay. My Zoom got covered up here, so I need to find it back. There it is. So the question was on how the email functionality works. In standard D365, you can set up a vendor. I'm sorry, you set up your vendors, and when you set up the vendor, you can identify email address or addresses for that vendor. When you configure D365, you tell it what's the kind of order of looking through email addresses if the vendor has multiple. So you can tell it, I first want to look to see if they have a specific remit to address. If not, then look for a primary address or look for a business address. So if you have multiple emails on a vendor, there's a hierarchy you can set up that says, what do I want to look for first? And then it kind of goes through a hierarchy until it finds an email that fits that hierarchy. Hopefully that answered that question. If not, no more questions, I'll send it back to Kelly.
Thanks, Chuck. Chuck just discussed our bank formats with you that will allow you to efficiently scale your business. He showed you how to create a payment proposal in APFT, centralizing your payment processing. He showed you how to transfer a file using Send Later, making the solution configurable to your business needs. How you can create the file, and he discussed transmissions to the bank, increasing your security. He showed you how to complete the file, automating your vendor payments, and how to process a return payment, allowing you to handle your payments quickly. So let's go back to the metrics in the Goldman Sachs study. You can see the statistics on the common challenges accounts payable teams face on a day-to-day basis. So how can you beat the statistics from the Goldman Sachs study? With vendor payment automation, we can resolve the common pain points companies experience by first reducing the risk of fraud. Could you imagine a world where the risk of fraud is significantly reduced by having a SOC 2 compliant, secure exchange of files to and from the bank? Increase productivity. Empower your accounts payable staff to focus on more strategic tasks by leveraging AP automation. Boost productivity and drive your business forward. Streamline processing. Whether you're using ACHs, Fedwires, bank printed checks, SEPAs, or foreign wires to pay your vendors, our solution ensures a consistent and streamlined process flow for all payment types. Strengthen vendor relationships. Our robust solution facilitates vendor payments, including automated notifications to streamline communications. But don't just take it from me. Let's see what Lippert Components had to say about the vendor payment automation solution. SKSoft consistently frees Lippert staff up to manage other tasks. Through identifying the 10% of ACH emails experiencing delivery failure, we were able to achieve time savings of 8 hours per month. We just finished showing you our seamless and secure vendor payment automation solution, so you can efficiently automate your vendor payments. Up next, we're going to be showing you Positive Pay. Today, we want to bring to your attention a critical aspect of financial security that demands our immediate focus. According to the AFP Payments Fraud and Control Survey, a staggering 65% of organizations fell victim to payment fraud attacks or attempts. The harsh reality is that the preferred target for fraudsters remains unchanged: checks. A significant 63% of respondents reported their organizations face fraud activity via checks, highlighting the urgent need for robust protection. Checks, despite their prevalence, are the payment method most vulnerable to fraud. The manual processes are prone to fraudulent activities such as check washing and are no longer sufficient in safeguarding your organization. Take it from Brett Johnson, a convicted identity thief turned security consultant. You can watch the ink literally flow off the check, and it gives you a brand new piece of paper that you can do whatever you want with. There are even more alarming tutorials online on how to wash a check. But don't be alarmed. Today, we're going to show you firsthand how Positive Pay can protect your organization against fraud. Today, Chuck will be discussing formats. He'll show you the creation of the Positive Pay file and how you can view details of the file. And I'll turn it over to Chuck.
Thanks, Kelly. So as Kelly mentioned, the Positive Pay formats, it's same as in the other in APEFT, and that's kind of a common theme with all of ours. Again, because we're sending files to and from the bank, we need to know what these files look like. Positive Pay, there's a vast library, hundreds of formats that already exist. If your format's not already in the library, we'll create it for free. We do not charge if you select an existing one, or if we need to create it from scratch. There is no difference in the cost of the software. Once you're choosing a format, you're attaching it to your bank accounts. Then we go through the Positive Pay file creation process. There's a manual process, but all of our clients are going to choose an automated one. The whole idea of the Treasury Automation Positive Pay is that it's out of sight, out of mind. Once you set it up, you really don't have to worry about it. There's an upon journal posting and fixed time for automated options. Upon journal posting is just exactly like it sounds. It's going to build and send a file at the journal posting time. So if I got a journal and I post it and it's got checks in it, it's going to build and send a file. The fixed time is meant to handle the situations where I have multiple pay runs in a day, but I don't want to send multiple files. So whether that's in the same legal entity or across multiple legal entities, fixed time usually is attached to a job that runs at 5 or 6 at night, sometime late in the day, and it's going to gather up all the all the check payments that were done that day. Again, across or within a legal entity, as long as they're all for the same bank, it can gather those up and send it to that bank 100% automated. So we're going to go ahead and go to demo. And see if we can switch back here. A couple of these timed out, so sorry about that. We'll back up here and go back to the payment journal. So really what you're going to see is a demo of standard D365, because again, Positive Pay is really the Treasury Automation piece is all running behind the scenes. So everything you're kind of visibly seeing here is standard D365. So I'm just going through the standard payment process. I would go in, and I did a little bit of this ahead of time just because this meeting tends to run a little tight on time sometimes. But basically I did a proposal, get some payments in here. These are check payments. In standard payment journal, to generate the payments, I go to the generate payments and I click OK. And it's going to go ahead and print the physical checks. That's what prints the checks. It also assigns check numbers. And again, I did a little, well, didn't do that part yet. So let's go ahead and generate those. And let's go ahead and just print them to screen for today. So it's going out there and assigning the check numbers to the checks, printing the checks. Again, this is all part of the standard D365 process. We're not doing any extra steps that for Positive Pay that aren't just part of the regular check printing process. So I go in here now and the checks are printed, so I can go ahead and post the journal. I had mine set up to upon journal posting as far as the communication option. So it's going to go ahead and it's going out to Bank Fabric, and it's building the file and then going out to Bank Fabric, and have Bank Fabric in a real life situation and be transmitting it to the bank at the same time. If we go up here, really the only thing that you see different is that there was a Positive Pay file created. Again, other than that, I just went through the standard check printing process. Again, Positive Pay, out of sight, out of mind. You configure it once, and that should be running behind the scenes. We can verify that this did happen. Let's go look here. This is 2 payments for $50,000. If we go out to the positive pay screen, we can see that there's two payments. I'm sorry, for $5,000, two payments that went out today. So we can see these payments went out. Oh, that's not the right one. Let me refresh here. It was 50,000. There it is. Yep. So two payments for 50,000 that went out today. And from here, I can also go in and I could see an audit trail if I wanted to, or I could see which checks were in there, or I could even print an audit trail if I wanted to print an audit report. I could do that as well. So let's go back to and just kind of review the process there. Again, we went through the completely automated process. Step one forward. So we generated checks in D365. Again, I kind of did that, most of that offline, but we went through the check generation process there in the demo. We had our file creation method set to upon journal posting, so it immediately generated a file. And again, if I had to hook up to the bank, it's going to generate the file and transmit it to the bank all in one step. And by the way, when I say we need to hook Bank Fabric up to the bank, that's all really just configuration things. So you're filling in some connection information into Bank Fabric. You're not having to write an integration to your bank. That's all done through Bank Fabric. Again, you're just really filling in your connection information into the Bank Fabric forms, and it is automatically sending that file to your bank after you do that. We didn't really go down the bottom path here, but if you had a reverse checks, so voids or cancels can be included as well. When you send those to the bank, those are just really configuration options as to whether you include those or not. Most times you're going to include your canceled checks so that your bank knows that they need to stop that check should it try to be cashed. Any questions on the positive pay process? Oops, sorry. If not, we'll turn it back to Kelly.
Thanks, Chuck. Chuck just discussed the positive pay file formats with you and how you'll receive ongoing maintenance at no additional cost. How you can seamlessly create the positive pay file in Dynamics, increasing your efficiency, and how you can view the details of the file, improving your visibility. So let's reference back to the alarming statistics about check fraud. Given these statistics, addressing this critical issue requires robust security solutions. With positive pay, you can stay one step ahead in a landscape where fraudsters persistently seek vulnerabilities. Our positive pay solution is a truly automated system that securely transmits your outbound check files to the bank, allowing real-time protection against fraudulent activities while increasing your efficiency and accuracy. It's fully embedded into your Microsoft Dynamics ERP system and written in the same code as D365, allowing you to centralize your financial processes into one system to seamlessly consolidate your operations. With our positive pay solution, you don't have to worry about maintaining your bank's file formats. We will not only develop your bank formats if your bank is not in our format library, but we will also provide ongoing maintenance of your positive pay file formats. However, let's not rely solely on our perspective. Instead, let's explore Anthony Davis's insights from Pattern Energy. SKSoft's protected platform has helped us see results in the form of increased security and reduced fraud risk through direct bank integration and automatic processing. This has included the processing of 160 positive pay files per year. So far, we have showed you our seamless and secure vendor payment automation solution, so you can efficiently automate your vendor payments, and our positive pay solution, so you can protect your organization against check fraud. Up next, we'll be showing you our automated bank reconciliation solution. In the world of finance, time is money. Yet all too often, valuable resources are squandered on laborious, error-prone tasks that could easily be automated. According to EY's eye-opening survey, a staggering 59% of your financial department's resources are dedicated to managing transaction-intensive processes. And what's even more alarming is that a whopping 95% of this effort goes to waste, tangled up in the mundane task of matching transactions that should have been resolved long ago. Enter the world of bank reconciliation, a necessary evil that plagues businesses and individuals alike. Labor-intensive, time-consuming, error-ridden, These are all unfortunate descriptors that accompany this essential yet burdensome task. But what if there was a better way? Today, we'll unveil our fully automated bank reconciliation system, offering a smoother path forward. Chuck will be discussing formats. He'll review the matching rules. He'll show you transaction type mapping for exception handling, the general journal mapping rules, and the bank statement reconciliation process. And I'll turn it over to Chuck.
Thanks, Kelly. As Kelly mentioned, we're going to go through this here in just a second. We'll first kind of start with an overflow or an overview though. So we start with a file coming from the bank. As I mentioned, almost everything starts with a file coming to and from the bank. So normally if you have, I saw Citi and Wells Fargo in the pre-registration comments. So if you have 20 accounts with Wells Fargo over 3 legal entities, the bank is going to create a file overnight. Usually they drop it early in the morning, 6 or so in the morning, and it's going to have yesterday's activities for all those bank accounts. We're going to go ahead and we can download that file automatically from the bank site. We can import the bank file. When it imports the bank file, the automation is going to create the bank statements and set ending balances on those bank statements. Then we have what we call our rule-based processing. We have matching and mapping rules. So matching is trying to find things in D365 to link a statement line up to. And mapping rules is taking an incoming statement line and go ahead and create a transaction out of it for things that will never be in your system ahead of time. So if you have fees or interest coming in, those aren't going to be in your system ahead of time. What mapping is going to do is look for that and automatically create those for you on the import during the import process. What's really left, and we'll demo this as well, is how to get through the exceptions. So we expect that the matching and mapping rules handle the majority of your bank rec process. But if there's one-off things that need handling, we want you to be able to efficiently get through that process as well. So once you have the exceptions done, everything's in balance, we reconcile the statement to complete the process. So let's go into software so we can see that in action. And we mentioned the mapping and matching rules. These all went to sleep, of course, while we were talking. So the first thing that it does is it goes through and says, I shouldn't say, we ship a default set of rules, and if you don't have any other transaction specific exception in place, it's going to run through what we call the default rule. So the default rule, we ship one called default. You can call it anything you want, but you always have to have a rule with this, with the default checkbox checked. So when a statement line comes in, again, if there's no other exception processing defined, it's going to go through and try to match typically by reference number and amount. And if that doesn't work, try to match by date and amount. And you can see there's a couple reference number and amount steps. That's because the bank sends in several different numbers. D365, depending on the process you run, has several different numbers that you could try to match to. So we might want to try multiple permutations of which number from the bank to which number in D365 are we trying to map to. And you can see again, date and amount, there's always transactions where you and the bank don't have a common reference number that you both can, that you both know. So those are going to be trying to match by date and amount. And typically we're going to do that with some kind of a date tolerance, and you can set that whatever that is, between the transaction date that you have in ERP and the date that the bank reports on the bank statement. You can decide also what you want to do on duplicates. Do you want to match? Do you want to not match? So if you do decide that, yes, you want to match on duplicates, then you can assign those duplicates a different confidence level. Typically, I'm going to set it up something like you see there, where if I do match on duplicates, I'm going to assign it a much lower confidence level. And you see that in the end processing screen, that confidence level. So anything that's not 100% confident, I might want to take a second look at. Most times I actually set this up just not to match on duplicates and handle it in the exception screen. So again, the matching things, that's coming in and trying to find things in the system. The default is really grab all the low hanging fruit, the easy matches. But we have a more complex type of matches we can do as well. One of those is journal summary. What that is doing is taking a single line off the bank statement and trying to match it to a whole journal's worth of items. If you've ever tried to match ACH payments in the US or Canadian EFT payments, you probably know the pain of you send out 100 payments today, tomorrow on your bank statement, or 2 days from now on your bank statement, you get a single lump sum for $1 million. And then now somebody is tasked with trying to find all the 100 payments that made up that big lump sum. The journal summary does that for you. So it reads it in. It reads in the statement line. It sees that statement line for the $1 million. It tries to find a whole journal's worth that add up to that and does that one-to-many matching for you. So this can save a lot of manual clicking by just setting this up to handle those. Again, Canadian ACH, UK BACS payments can work that way as well. EFT payments in Canada, all those get usually reported as lump sum. There always are things, though, that come in on your bank statement that are never going to be in the ERP ahead of time. Those things like fees or interest, you're not going to know about those typically until you get your bank statement in. Those are what we call mapping transactions. So we set up a mapping rule for those that we try to take those transactions and map it to a journal transaction automatically for you. When I say map it to a journal transaction, that means that we're going to create the journal transaction automatically. We can create it and post it. We can create it and submit it to workflow. Those are all really just configuration options as to how automated or how controlled, I guess, you want it to be. But I have a couple examples here of some things. For very simple things, we have, just like we had on the matching side, we have a default on the mapping side. The default on the mapping side just says that I've associated a incoming type of, maybe the bank's type for a fee is 999. And I've associated that to a D365 bank tran type of fees, and it has a general ledger account associated with it. The default rule just connects those two, and the transaction type from the bank is telling me everything I need to know, so I can just quickly create an entry for the corresponding ledger account. So that's really the simplest ones. A little more sophisticated example would be things like direct withdrawal. So I might have 3 or 4 parties, or maybe a dozen parties that are allowed to reach in and directly withdraw money out of my bank account. If that's the case, the bank coding is not going to really help me much. They're just going to give it a generic number for an electronic withdrawal, and the details are going to be in the description. So we need to do in an automated way what you would do manual, which is look through the description and try to figure out what's going on based on the description. So in this case, if ADP is our payroll provider and they reach in quarterly and grab payments or money out to make tax payments on our behalf, I could look for that phrasing in my bank statement line as the lookup value and then book it to a corresponding account. Likewise, if I accept credit cards, maybe I get a lump sum deposit and then they reach back in later and grab their fees back out. I can look for that fee line coming back in and pulling the fees out and book it to the corresponding ledger account there. And you could do that for other types of expenses if you wanted to as well. Another pretty common example would be things like sweeps. So if you have money being moved around automatically on your bank end, where it is taking money from and feeding zero balance accounts with sweeps going back and forth from maybe a concentration account, you're going to see on your bank statement transfer to, transfer from individual bank accounts. Again, we can look for that transfer to, transfer from those individual accounts. If it's transferring to or from this, I know that's my concentration account and I can book it there. You see now that the offset type is bank, it's not ledger in most cases here. So we can directly book those bank to bank transaction as well. In this case, as you can see, it's even kind of mixed and matched here. So it's mixed and matched across legal entities. And maybe I have a bunch of bank accounts that transfer to and from, but at the end of the day, it all goes to maybe a revolving credit line it pays back or draws down from the main concentration account, depending if I have a negative or positive balance. And maybe that's represented as a ledger account in my system. So you can see I can mix bank and ledger. I can mix legal entities here as well. So again, bringing this stuff in, bringing these statements in, bringing all these lines in, running through the mapping and matching, try to automate as much as possible. Where this all shows up is on a screen we call process bank statements. This is kind of your one-stop shop. This is where you would live every day. The rules, that's kind of a one-time activity that you do once you set up the whole process. But day to day, you're in process bank statements, looking at what was automated and what needs a little more manual attention. By default, we only show you unreconciled bank accounts or unreconciled statements. And by default, we only show you unmatched items within that. So that's a pretty efficient way to work, just only dealing with the exceptions. But for demo, we will show you what did work as well. So I'm going to change that to all and pick a bank statement. And if we did a good job with the rules, we'd expect it to look a lot like it does there on the bottom, with a lot of green and not so much red. Green are things that worked automatically. Whether you can see the second line there, creating a journal entry, or down further, matching to something, whether that's one or many items in the system. If we could create it automatically or match automatically, you're going to see those items turn green down there. And we always sort the red items to the top because that's what you're going to want to work on. You might want to review these things, especially, as I mentioned earlier, if they have a lower confidence level, but you're normally going to only want to work on the things that just didn't match. So I'm going to start at the top here and just click transaction reconciliation, and it's going to go ahead and step me through those. This screen really has three main parts. I'll just clean up a little browser noise here so it's easier to see. But we have the transaction reconciliation line. So this is the one statement line. This is up top here. This is the line I'm trying to work on from the bank statement. In the middle are unmatched items. So these are things that could potentially, or I should say uncleared items in D365. So these are things I could potentially manually match to if I wanted to. And down at the bottom, really, it's a mini version of the general ledger journal screen. So if I need to make an ad hoc entry, I can go ahead and just make the ad hoc entry by clicking new and adding a line down here. In fact, I could even do it from a template. So maybe this $5,000 deduction comes in every month, and it's my payroll taxes, but I want it to go to 3 different places. So I can't, maybe the amount changes every month, so I can't really set up a rule for that, but I can set up a template to kind of quickly code those out. And maybe I'd have to come down here, change the amounts, but again, very quick to get that those 3 separated accounts in there. I'm going to go ahead and delete those out for today's demo though, and just pick a couple existing items. And you can see as I start to click items here, the difference keeps going down. It's looking for me to select the right total to match to that 5,000. Once the difference gets to 0, this post button lights up. In this case, post is going to post a match. So it's not going to post any new journal entries. It's really just posting a match between this imported bank line and something that's already in D365. If I had new journal entries down here, it would go ahead and create the journal and post those first and then match to it. And by posting, it might immediately post, or it could set it up to go to workflow as well. That's, again, all your configuration based as to how you want that to flow through. When I click post, it's going to bring me the next red line off that first screen, so the next unmatched item. If you remember, I only had the one item. So when I click post, instead of bringing me up the next line and stepping me through that, it just puts me back to this first screen. And we can see at this point, there's nothing unreconciled, nothing unmatched. So we're completely balanced at this point. At that point, I can reconcile the statement. And then I could go on to another statement, another bank account. If you notice, I can even go to another company. So if any of you are kind of currently active in D365, you know that normally to change company context, you need to come up here, reset your context, and then probably drill back into the whatever screen you were in. If you have permission to do bank rec across legal entities, you can do it all from here. So there's no context switching. It's a very, very efficient way to get through all your work. In fact, if I just remove some of this stuff and apply filter, then I'll be able to see things across bank statements, across legal entities, or across bank accounts as well. The last little piece I want to cover here is if I need to undo something. So let's say I get a couple statements down the road. I go to try to reconcile a new statement line coming in. It's a $5,000 withdrawal. I'm looking everywhere in the system to try to find something to match it to, and I can't find it. I do a little bit of digging and I figure out that somebody already cleared the item I'm looking for by mistake on a previous statement. So I can go to that statement. The reverse reconciliation just simply opens that statement back up for editing. So I go ahead and click reverse. Now this is opened up again. At that point, I can go ahead and remove this match and then presumably go back and match it to whatever I was supposed to match it to in the first place. So reverse reconciliation, again, this button doesn't really in and of itself undo anything other than make the bank statement editable. Then the remove is what actually, again, that's what actually opens this particular line back up. By the way, this is separately securable. So if you want to have if you have a situation where maybe you have 5 different people doing bank rec, but only one that you want to be able to open up historic old, already reconciled statements, you can separately secure that from the rest of this processing. Any questions on the bank rec process?
Nope.
I didn't really cover this up front, but I probably should have mentioned that. So in bank rec, I said everything kind of starts with formats. We support the formats. The banks have done a lot better job on the bank rec side. They consolidated really on just a couple formats. In the US and Canada, something called prior day BAI is typically what you're getting. Outside of US and Canada, the ISO format, which the banks call CAM T53, is the one that is normally seen outside of them. And again, those are the main ones throughout the world that we see. If you have something other than that, we have a handful of other ones we support as well, including if you're just getting a simple comma delimited file in, we can read those in as well. If there's no questions, I'll turn it back to Kelly.
Thanks. Thanks, Chuck. Could you share the slides?
Yep.
Thank you. Chuck just discussed our bank reconciliation formats with you so you can seamlessly align your workflow. He reviewed the matching rules so you can efficiently reduce manual effort. He showed you transaction type mapping for exception handling to increase your precision and efficiency. He showed you our general journal mapping rules so you can streamline your financial operations. And lastly, he showcased bank statement reconciliation so you can effortlessly optimize your reconciliation process. So let's revisit the EY statistics on how finance departments are bogged down using inefficient processes to reconcile their bank statements. As promised, there's a much better way. Discover the power of automated bank reconciliation, where speed meets efficiency. Say goodbye to the tedious manual matching of cash outgoings and receipts. With our automated system, your bank accounts are reconciled more quickly, which will allow you to free up valuable time and resources, ultimately supporting your business's growth and success. Step away from the headaches of manual reconciliation. Forget about sifting through endless spreadsheets or paper-based records, risking human error at every turn. With our automated bank reconciliation solution, precision is paramount. Our configurable rule sets swiftly detect any anomalies, ensuring unmatched accuracy. Seamlessly matching bank transactions with accounting records, our software flags any discrepancies for quick review, streamlining processes and enhancing efficiency. Experience the power of enhanced visibility and seamless collaboration with our automated reconciliation systems. Say goodbye to the days of endless calls and meetings to track progress towards month-end close. Our solution offers real-time updates, allowing everyone involved to clearly see the status of reconciliation tasks, regardless of geographic location or organizational structure. Whether you're managing global operations or multiple entities, our system ensures everyone is on the same page, minimizing miscommunication and errors. With unified access to accurate data, discrepancies and misunderstandings become a thing of the past. But don't just take our word for it. Let's look at what Chris Esposito from Hamamatsu had to say. The daily time saved performing bank reconciliations in Microsoft Dynamics, as opposed to manually and externally in Microsoft Excel, is approximately 15 minutes per day. While the amount of time saved may not seem significant at first glance, this quickly adds up. Extrapolated out over 247 workdays in a calendar year, implementing these financial processes inevitably saves 3,705 minutes each year, which equates to approximately 62 working hours annually. Today, we've showed you our seamless and secure vendor payment automation solution, so you can efficiently automate your vendor payments. How you can shield against check fraud with our Positive Pay solution, improving risk management. And we explored our automated bank reconciliation solution to streamline your bank reconciliation process. So let's go back to an existing customer of ours, Pattern Energy. You remember the pain points they were experiencing back in 2017? After implementing our Treasury Automation Suite, Pattern Energy was able to achieve secure and automated payment, bank statement, settlement processing, and bank communications, real-time visibility through direct response messaging from the banks and centralized financial processes, automated vendor payment notifications through implementing standard email templates for vendor payment notifications in different languages for their international and domestic entities, employ multi-country support with a large inventory of bank formats, increase accuracy in auto matching transactions from inbound statements and outbound payments. Ultimately, the Treasury Automation Suite laid the groundwork for a scalable approach through having access to over 700 pre-built bank formats and solutions that are configurable to their specific business needs. Let's see what Anthony Davis had to say about his experience with the Treasury Automation Suite. The Treasury Automation Suite is the most scalable solution to support business growth. Pattern Energy now uses this system for over 193 bank accounts across 104 legal entities, which includes regular updates that come with new features to support business operations. And that concludes our presentation today. Thank you for your time. I'll be following up with the recording. If you liked what you saw today, the next step in our sales process would be to cover off on pricing and generate formal estimates from there. Thanks again for your time, and I'll be in touch here shortly.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you.